Perspective of one employer at least. Let's talk to a lawyer about this. Stephanie Hayden, lawyer based in London. Morning, Stephanie.
Yes, hi, good morning.
What's the legal position for employers? Can they insist on this?
At the moment, if you're currently employed, the law as it stands today, if you were told you had to have a jab as a condition of your job, the employer would almost certainly, in my view, be discriminating against and be in breach of the contract of employment. The employer would need to have the express or implied agreement of the employee concerned, or otherwise that employee could simply resign and claim for constructive dismissal. However, going forward into what some people might describe as the new normal, things may well develop. So I can definitely foresee a situation where certain business sectors, I'm thinking, for example, care homes, or even the charity sector working abroad, say in Africa, might, as part of a reasonable management instruction, require prospective employees in the first instance and then current employees to have those jabs to enable them to perform, for example, in sensitive roles around clinically extremely vulnerable persons or in, for example, sub-Saharan Africa. What will happen, in my view, is that this will be tested pretty quickly. One employer will make this decision, someone will take them to employment tribunal, and we will develop jurisprudence on this issue.
What about, someone raised this earlier, what about the issue of your obligation to provide a safe workplace, so that if one employer hasn't been vaccinated, he or she potentially presents a risk to other staff members?
Well, of course, this is the big elephant in the room. An employer does have an obligation to provide a safe workplace. However, we have a situation where employees have been employed on specific contracts of employment and they just can't be changed.
But if it's someone new that you're employing?
Well, that's again where I think we have to wait and see. As I said a few moments ago, I could definitely see a situation in certain business sectors where that could be considered a reasonable management instruction to enable one to perform the role. And it will be tested in due course in the courts. But I don't believe it's going to be widespread. You know, we've all heard stories recently.
This is a classic case of, this may only affect a tiny number of people. It may only come up a couple of times in the whole country where this situation requires resolution. But it's a fascinating one in terms of the whole moral question of our responsibility to other people versus our freedom to choose.
Absolutely. I think you're right. It will be a small number of people. You're going to have scare stories in the press and loudmouth employers making threats about it. But ultimately, the courts will decide over this. And again, it's about striking a balance. Employment law is about the employer being reasonable and a position of mutual trust and confidence between an employee and an employer. And I think we'll find a balance. I really do.
You can definitely see situations. I'm just thinking of employees who go into a home, whether they're electricians or people working in the building trade or someone who fits blinds, whoever it is. And you as a company, you advertise it and you say, every one of our employees is vaccinated. You can feel safe.
Well, I think that would be going over the top. It's what would be proportionate in my view. Absolutely, you could have a certain number of employees, and let's be honest, probably most of your employees are going to be vaccinated in reality. So you are going to be able to supply the trader to, for example, a home where there's a clinically extremely vulnerable person living, and you can offer that service, but to require every single employee, because let's remember, some employees can't get vaccinated for medical reasons. This is not all about so-called anti-vaxxers. There's generally, medical reasons for it as well.
Yeah, I'm enjoying the row with you now. Sure, medical exemptions is one thing, Stephanie, but if you don't have medical exemption, interestingly, our audience is, or the part of our audience that communicates with us, is very warm to this idea. They're generally supportive of it. Others saying that there are privacy issues here. But so this is from Owen, for example. We require bus drivers and lorry drivers to meet medical and eyesight standards and test for these if required. I simply don't see the difference in requiring other staff to meet a standard by having been vaccinated.
But why don't we do that for the flu? Why don't we do that for 1,000 other, diseases that people could get? To me, this is about striking a balance. I believe that the courts will resolve this once somebody tries to impose it and the inevitable litigation follows. But I agree with you. This is not going to be the major problem that people anticipate because most people will be vaccinated.
Another text here. NHS staff currently have to have hepatitis B immunisation already. So similar, really serious issues around transmission there.
Well, this is what I said before. There's definitely some sectors where it will, in my view, become a reasonable management instruction. And that is certainly a setting where I could see that happening.
I just think it's really interesting and how employees are starting to think about these questions now already and what requirements might be set out in the future. Thanks, Stephanie, for coming on to help us with this morning. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much. Thank you.